Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next Q&A session for Etiuda competition. And I would like to welcome Lance Tangestani, the director of the film Shalky, and Dan Hodgson, and director, and Julia Alcamo, the producer of the film The Scarecrows, and Dekel Nitzan, the director and writer of the film Noah, and Kim Alamont, the director of the film Terminal, and Maya Yadlin, the director of the film Fine. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us here. Firstly, I would like to talk to Lance about the movie Shalky. Hi, Lance, and thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I have a question I would like to start with. That did you or maybe someone you know grew up or have lived in a similar place like it's shown in the movie? Because even though it portrays a bit of outlaws, I guess you can say that, and people doing illegal stuff, they are also shown with a lot of affection, and it's kind of hard not to like them. Actually, they have their special community and their friendship, and it shows how they support each other as well. So I was curious if it was a bit of a personal topic for you, maybe.
Pretty much, but the neighborhood we shot in is the neighborhood I grew up in. Like a lot of the interiors were done in my mother's house. So like all the flat blocks you see there, I lived there for about I think maybe 15 years. And all the small stories that you see inside the film were based on experiences I had or friends of mine had. So in that sense, it was very personal, and I tried to use all the elements of people I know, their stories, and my own stories, but in a quite detached fashion. So it's not about, like you described, the illegal stuff, the crime stuff, but just these people as human beings and their day-to-day life in council flats.
Great, thank you. That's really nice to know. Actually, so maybe I will ask another question about that. Was it how did the so it was your neighborhood. So how did
Mhm.
the people still living there react to the fact that you're gonna shoot this place, shoot their homes, not directly, but the whole neighborhood? Or was it hard? Did they have maybe some objections, or did they not like the idea at all, or maybe they were excited? And were there any difficulties at all?
This point you bring up, I was super nervous about this because I didn't know how they would react. I was afraid maybe the people in the neighborhood would have the feeling that they were being made fun of. But during the shooting itself, we had like one complaint maybe, and that's very surprising in and around Amsterdam. And the most nervous moment for me in relation to my neighbors was we had one special screening inside my village, and we invited the neighbors. And yeah, I was super nervous because I didn't know what the reaction was going to be. But they liked it. They even were able to laugh at it. And even though a lot of the things portrayed is things they might have had trouble with or they didn't like about the neighborhood, but the way we portrayed it kind of made it possible for them to look at it in an empathic fashion. So in the long run, I was very very relieved and surprised also with the reaction from the people living in the neighborhood.
Great. So it turned out pretty well for all sides. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. And about the plot, there is this moment where we see a girl that have moved out of this neighborhood and has a career. Let's say she's an accountant, and the fact that she's brought up, was it to show how Shalky also had this opportunity to leave this place, to have, let's say, normal life, and to get somewhere, and but couldn't actually. It didn't turn out. And also, was this the fact of the smoking, that he is constantly trying to quit smoking? Everyone keep asking, but he still cannot do it. Where was it connected? Maybe it's an allegory for something, for staying somewhere and having difficulties to move forward. Or how was your idea for it?
A lot of things you mentioned are pretty spot on. I think in and around Amsterdam, getting high every day is a part of kind of putting life on hold, not having to deal with responsibilities and not having to deal with growing up. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the people in those neighborhoods didn't have opportunities or capacities or could have done something else. And specifically within the plot we made, Shalky is like a very passive character and he's very internal. You can't really figure out what he's thinking. So we felt we needed a character like that who did manage to outgrow the neighborhood, so to say, to be able to reflect on Shalky's capabilities he might have, but we don't get to see in the movie. And for us, that was important to give this layer of depth, to not have this, I don't know, like stereotypical image of a loser stoner not being able to outgrow his surrounding.
Yeah, so exactly what I was asking for. Great, thank you very much. And also, I wanted to go for a topic of the film being a comedy, because it's not an easy genre, and it's really hard to make a good one, and in this short period of time. And actually, it is a very warm, let's say, comedy, that there's nothing like silly stuff, but just typical situations from daily life, portrayed in some humorous way as well, and also in difficult situations. And was it your this idea of doing this as a comedy? Was it the idea of your from the beginning, or did it come up some place later during the shooting, maybe, or during the screenplaying?
Well, it came about during the writing. It wasn't my intention to like graduate with a comedy. Like you say, comedy is a very difficult and vulnerable thing to do, I think. But the more me and my screenwriter were discussing these events from my past and the people that live in this neighborhood, the more sometimes absurd and humorous points we could found about their daily life and struggle. And this is something I realized afterwards, but by making it the tone light and comical, it made it more acceptable to a broader audience, even a younger audience. So this is kind of a discovery I made during the writing, during the filming, and even with the reactions I got from the people from my own neighborhood and beyond, that made me want to stick to this tone and try it to use it in future projects.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you, thank you, Lance, for this talk. I would like to now go for the movie, The Scarecrows, and we have here the director and the producer, Dan and Julia. And I would like to ask about, because I know that you have previously done many movies in all around the world, and how did you actually find this topic or this village, and what was first, the idea of filming this issue in Japan, or did you somehow just saw this by accident and decided to make this movie, because this village is really different than anything we saw. So it's very interesting. How did you find it in the first place?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's no romantic story to how we found the story of the village. It was more out of a desire to make a film about a place rather than a specific person. So we wanted to paint a portrait of a place that people were living, but we didn't quite know what we were looking for. And we came across this village of Meguro, and the more we read about it, the more we wanted to make a film about it. There'd already been quite a lot of media coverage there, and especially in the British tabloids, actually, they had really painted these quite extreme ideas of what it was like there, calling it creepy, calling it weird, and that just made us want to go more and more, because it was something that didn't seem quite right, that they were trying to portray it as. We wanted to see what was behind the sort of the shallow stories that we were reading about.
Yeah, I think it was also the desire to look beyond the scarecrows. So obviously the scarecrows are what is so intriguing about this village. And as you quite rightly said, it's something that's very, very unique. Depopulation exists across the world. I'm sure it exists in Poland and in Germany, but it's here. But very rarely do you come across a village that's suddenly populated by scarecrows. But as Dan said, we were really curious to actually find out about the people. I mean, it has to be a particular bunch of people who firstly come up with it, and then also were willing to live with it. So we were really curious about the people behind the scarecrows.
Okay, great, thank you. And also, I think it's more for Julia. How did the production process look like in general? Was it hard to organize everything on this other part of the world, and in this very remote place, I assume? So how the whole process looked like? Was it challenging? I guess it was.
Yes, I mean, off the top, absolutely. It wasn't a straightforward production process where you could go yourself and recce and interview people, book hotels, book hostels. It wasn't quite so straightforward. We were really lucky in that, as Dan mentioned, the village had been covered beforehand. And one of the things that had been made was a small BBC podcast. And we were actually able to get in touch with a filmmaker who had done that. And she, very luckily for us, was free at the time when we were planning to go to Japan. So she basically assisted on the side of Japan and was able to actually do a full recce trip for us, without which we really couldn't, especially because it is a student film. We couldn't have gone had we not had the opportunity to check what's there, to get location releases, etc., etc. So sort of from afar, we directed her in a recce, which she did over a weekend, and was able to get some first materials, get some agreements settled. And so having that, it then actually became pretty straightforward. We encountered incredible hospitality. So we arrived there, we were in a sort of mountain hostel, I guess, for the entirety of the time, and they looked after us like we were sort of family. So from that perspective, actually, once we'd done the first step and once we got there, it was really, really easy in a very lucky way. So we were really able to concentrate, I guess, on the creative side of the things then, and not get hung up on where to sleep next.
Okay, so did you do all of this during one trip only?
The production process. 3.5 weeks overall. We had a couple of days in Osaka on either end, but then we were in the village itself for just over 3 weeks. Exactly. And within that space, we had a big festival going on in the village, but we also had a typhoon come through. So there was some typical documentary circumstances that we had to tackle.
Okay, great job then. Very, very good. So, and regarding the people, because they seem really open, and it looks like they are almost happy, to have you there. Where they're happy to being portrayed in a film, because they are looking for some ways to attract people to come to this village. So were they actually thrilled to have you there and for this movie, or maybe they had some objections of showing their private parts?
I think that's right. I think that I mentioned before about the media coverage, and while especially British tabloids were painting them in a certain way, Japanese and particularly Asian media was painting it in another way, which was that these scarecrows that the villagers were creating was unifying this village. And when we went, that wasn't actually the case. What we discovered and what we tried to portray in the film to some degree was actually that there was a real varied feelings about the scarecrows and what the scarecrows were doing to the village. So our experience of actually filming there was a mixed bag. Most people were absolutely wonderful, but there were some people who were a little bit torn about the idea of people only going there because there's these scarecrows to see. And people weren't going there because of the beautiful mountains or because of the culture or because of the food, but just because this sort of weird thing to see was there to be visited.
Okay, but so are there, because I assume the overpopulation and the older generation being the biggest part of the society is a common problem, as you mentioned before, in the whole world. But in Japan, I guess it's the biggest issue, the bigger issue. And are there many more village, let's say, kind of like this one, like they have some special things of their village, something really unique? And do you have any idea? Are there many more villages with some ideas like this one?
That's a good question. I didn't particularly come across any others. What was interesting though, just on the actual issue, is before we went, we read about the place and we sort of looked at photographs and we did our research, and we had an image of what it might look like in the area in terms of all these villages that had either pretty much died away or they had depopulated massively, and so we had these high hopes, but we thought, okay, maybe it's not going to be how we imagine actually. And when we arrived and we drove from Osaka to this village, and along the way, just as you see in the start of the film, it was just like dead village after dead village after dead village, places fallen through. And what's also fascinating about Japan, as opposed to some other places, especially in the Western world, they don't tend to clear houses and buildings like we would. So you could go inside some of these homes that were falling apart on the outside. You go inside and they would still have family portraits there. They would still have the dinner table would still be set. There'd be empty beer cans around. So it was almost like everyone had just vanished to some degree, and then things had been left to decay, which was quite unusual.
Yeah, like you said, it's very not typical in our part of the world, I would say, because we usually clean everything up or take with us, and it's when you come to some house that it's empty, but there's still like everything left up. You would say that some kind of emergency happened, and they had to run away like right now. and then they're just like everywhere. That's very interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. Now I'd like to start with the movie Terminal, and we have the director Kim Alamont with us. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hi. So this movie is really beautiful, and the lights and everything, and the bus station seems to be really special. This one. And I would like to ask about this idea of the bus station in general, because it seems like this place kind of in between, because you're not really not traveling, but you are not really traveling yet as well. So it's like the place in the middle when you can still go back or go forward. And so was this some kind of metaphor for something else in general in life, and what did you wanted to show by this particular place?
Yes, like Dan said, I was really interested in the place and tried to tell a story with images about the place. Instead of a story. But it was quite difficult for me because I never did this process before, and as I tried to write the scenes or find the images in this place, it wasn't that easy that I thought. But yeah, I mean, I was really interested in this place. I started with a problem of mine, loneliness, I think, or as you said, the state of in between something. This. To try to want something, but don't know why it's why you cannot get there. So I thought that the bus station is the perfect place for a theme or questions like that. And I had like some really old childhood memories when I traveled with my parents, and it wasn't the bus station, but it was the gas station on the motorways when we arrived there in the darkness, and I was really fascinated as I was a child, and so I thought I want to make a movie about a place like this.
Okay, and as you said, it was challenging for you to portray this place, and then in the end, it looks really amazing. And how did you find this particular bus station? Because it catches the eye, and it's really lovely how the lights are portrayed and the darkness mostly as well. And as you said, you saw it in your childhood even. So I guess this image was stuck with you for some time, and then you found this perfect place for this movie. So how did that happen?
Just by going scouting through the internet and try to scout all the different bus stations nearby. Yes, I really wanted to feature the atmosphere or the place as its own, as a main character, if you want so. Because I think if you really show the place where people are in it, you can show much more than if you film only a head who is talking and saying words. And that was quite the experiment, and that's why I chose to only make one image for a scene. And I think the other factor that it is so beautiful as it is might be that we worked on film, and that was also an experiment. I never did this before, and I really wanted to know how you get there, because I think it's part of my obligation as a young filmmaker, as a digital kid, to know what others did before me and how they did it. And yes, this is also was a really big reduction in terms of the process, because we didn't have much material, and that's why I chose to do only one image for a scene. So it was really carefully chosen, every image, and every image was really carefully rehearsed. So yeah.
Okay, we can see it very well. Thank you. Also, I have a question regarding one particular scene when this main character, this old lady, she seems in general to be really lonely and longing for something, for a human contact too. And then when she finally actually have some with the girl that approaches her, there is this language barrier suddenly. So she was so close to having a meaningful conversation, but it was torn in a second, turning out that they have this language barrier. And I wanted to ask if this was a planned issue to show how difficult actually it is to find another human being to have a meaningful and real contact with. That there's always something that creates the difficulties, and that it's hard to have someone to fulfill your actual needs.
Yes, of course. I mean, a place like this is it's really difficult to find a partner or to find someone you get along with. And I think they really get along with each other, although they don't understand each other. I think that's possible. But yeah, the language barrier was of course a theme, because I really experienced this, and I mean, a place like a bus station is a place where many languages come together, and very different people come together, and very scary or beautiful things can happen. And yeah, I mean, a little anecdote from my childhood, when I visited those places, and when I heard people from abroad talking, I was really confused, because I didn't understand the language. But when they started to laugh, I always thought, oh, they laugh like us, so they must be Swiss. That was my explanation of people I don't understand. They must be Swiss. They laugh like me.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kim, for being here with us, and for this. I would like to now go to a film, Fine, directed by Maya Yadlin. Hi, Maya.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. It's great to have you. And first of all, I would like to ask about the cast, because everyone, it's very few people, but still everyone is your close family. So I would like to ask, how was this this idea? How did it come to you? Was it the idea from the beginning to show this particular story with your family members, or did it come up later during the process of writing, maybe?
Mm-hmm. First of all, basically, my family they want to be part of my films, and I guess my father, his dream was like to be an actor, so it was very naturally for me to take them, and also in my writing it was very naturally for me to write about my family. Like there were many situations in life, like we were four of us together, and I thought like this could be a film. So at the end I really wrote something about us, and actually it's something that from the first year in the film, with all my films I did with my family. So for me it's not something that it's new for me. And also I guess that casting them, it would like who would play my father better than him, and also the rest of us. So that's why I thought this is the right thing to do.
Okay. Was the aunt on the phone also your family member?
Wait, 1 minute. Again?
I was just asking if the aunt on the phone with your mom was also a family member.
Yeah, she's also a family member, but it's something that it's not exactly in the real life. But yeah, it's something that also we have a family that we were going there for a dinner for the fest.
Okay. Also, your movie, in being kind of funny way, show this story, but also it shows how very small misunderstandings or small issues can really escalate and have this major issues and having everyone arguing, and especially with your closed ones. So how difficult actually it is to keep this relationship being strong and being good for everyone when you are so close together. So I assume this was really something, like you mentioned before, something that you had in your life in general. So I was thinking if this is something that your family members maybe objected to show something so delicate, I'd say, or was it difficult for you to show this kind of issues in relationship with your closest family members?
First of all, at first, like when I gave them the script, they were like, "It's not us." So I said, "Okay, it's just a film," and that's why they didn't mind like doing it. And I don't know. I think it's something that maybe it's close to like all the dynamics of many families is something that maybe people can identify with. So that's why I thought, okay, why not? So it was. I think that's what wasn't the main issue. Like doing something that is very close to life, and like doing it again and again, and like playing it, and then it starts to mix together. Like if it's now it's real, or we are just thinking. So that I think was the main difficult in this situation, and not particularly that we are doing something that people can see, and you know. And I think that wasn't something I was afraid of. I guess.
Okay, so I assume since it's so normal for you that they were, if they were any difficulties with your family in this whole process, where did you have any arguments or maybe some similar situations as portrayed in the film, when you just have some major disagreements from something very little, or just arguments in general? Is it really really well working with them, and you understand each other perfectly, and when you're let's say the boss for this of them?
Yeah, sometimes I felt like I'm their father and mother, and they are my children. And yeah, like I said, it mixed together. Like the crew all the time asked me if now it's a real argument or we're playing the script. Like all the time we were also confusing what is real and what is just the film. So yeah, the problems are the same, and the dynamic in the shootings were the same.
Great. Thank you very much, Maya, and for being here as well. I don't know if we have the issue with Dekel fixed. Maybe we can try.
Do you hear me now? Is it-
Yes.
Okay, okay. All
Good.
the challenges of technology were like overcome.
Yes, I know. We have it all the time now. Great, but we managed. So that's perfect. So maybe I will repeat the question I had. I wanted to ask about this figurine of the chicken that was being broken over and over again, and the fact that Noah, even though she had a chance to confront it and to do something about it, and she could change and stop the cycle, she never did. She just passively kept repairing this figurine over and over again, kind of thoughtlessly. And what was your idea of this, and was it some metaphor for her life in general?
Yeah, well, so no, it's kind of stuck in its loop, which I try to create. It's evolved through the bicycle riding and her mother, her baby, and most of all the job searching. And she tries to get away and tries to get out of this loop. And the thing with the statue of this, it's more of a rooster, I think, than a chicken. Um, was that it's kind of emphasized this bigger loop in her life, but it's reflects the situation that she has with the community in the place that she lives in this village. Because her parents are kind of old settlers in this village. They are like in agriculture, and they kind of heritage her this olive groves and the farming. And on the other hand, there is this perfect family, the new people that coming to the villages, and they're like more wealthy, and I think she's kind of caught between the middle, and not doing something about this statue being broken all the time is kind of her way denying that she's choosing one side over the other. And I think that when she finally sees this boy who really breaks the statue, then start the decline, like the emotional decline that afterwards she's kind of breaks and all of her world is kind of collapsed. But until then, it's this kind of denial that she's hoping to not to confront with this bitter truth that she and her family are not wanted there, and most of all the memory of her father and what they represent, her father and mother.
So it also goes for another thing that's Noah's acting in general in this movie. She kind of goes through life thoughtlessly and a bit of carelessly, let's say. And her decisions and her choices are really something that doesn't quite suit a grown woman, and it looks like she, even though she has a mother, she's also a mother. She has her child of her own, yet she still acts like a child herself. And especially the final scene when she cryingly runs towards her mother and looks for her. And so I wanted to ask, what was your idea for this subject, that everyone is a bit of a child always, despite the situation in their life, or that everyone sometimes just needs a hug from a mother without questions, or just being cared like a baby.
I must say I really like this interpretation, and I think it's correct. I think well, I tried to portray this very complex character, which is Noah, and her detachment. I didn't really thought about her behavior as immature or childish, but more of like she doesn't really understand what's expected from her. She's like emotionally detached, or she's like thinking about the things that she can achieve if she'll act in one way or another. And she's kind of planning. She has this strict plan, and she doesn't really know what will happen with it at the end. And when it suddenly breaks, if it's like the rooster that breaks, and then the party, and then the job, and then the mail, everything is kind of all the things that she hopes to achieve kind of fall apart. And I kind of, the idea was that she's running to the only place that she could be loved and could be belong, and it's her broken family, opposite from what all the people that are there in the party. So in a way, I think you're kind of right. It was something like this idea that at the end she's becoming this child for her mother, because all over the film she's being it's not really sure who's the mother and who's the child, and there she's kind of falls apart, and she lets herself being held by her mother, being taken care of. So I think yeah, it's a good the way you describe it is pretty precise.
Okay, thank you. Also, I wanted to ask: was it hard for you to feel this woman's perspective, and to be kind of not really judgmental of her choices, of her life, just to show her struggles, or were you trying to actually be a bit of judge, to be a bit moralistic of her life decisions?
Well, it was hard, not only because I think of a woman's perspective, also because I think this specific character is a bit complex and not always easy to empathize with because of her acts and her decisions. Like, there was no way I wanted to be judgmental toward her in any way. I mean, and I really tried to be delicate, and not only with the character, but with the whole narrative and the plot and the relationship. To be so conclusive about if she does that, it means that she should receive that, or and to describe her emotional process as something more wider. I think the hardest part for me was everything concerned to the romantic relationship and the sexual encounters. I wanted to be, I don't know, as much as close to this character. This character is kind of based on characters I know from my life, and combined with cinematic characters that I was really inspired by, like Mabel from Woman Under the Influence by John Cassavetes, or Rosetta by Jean-Pierre Dardenne, and or Mia from Fish Tank from Andrea Arnold, and I try to make this mix with things that I know that I kind of grew up on, and things that I inspired from cinema. And when I needed another opinion, of course I used if it's the producer of the film, or of course Sharon Tal, the actress of the film, which I think kind of brought this character and kind of helped me navigate through the hardest part of this process.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dekel. And that was all films now. And I would like to really thank everyone for being here, for joining us, and being in this talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nada